Hello, and welcome to The Moment Show. In this video, I'll be covering posts from r/detrans, a well-moderated subreddit for people questioning, desisting, or detransitioning. On to this video's first post, titled, My Life Was Destroyed at 15 Years Old. I'm 17 now, and I can't deal with the pain, grief, and remorse. And this is by a detrans female individual. Hey, so I've always been a tomboy when I was a kid. Looked like a boy and wanted to be one. People who knew me accepted me, but when kids didn't know me, they made fun of me. I wouldn't say I was bullied, but it definitely wasn't easy on me. When my breasts started to develop, I couldn't deal with it. I wanted to take my own life. I was 10, I believe. I went to a therapist and told them I wanted to be a boy. That therapist told my mom that I should socially transition. I suspect that I would have gotten puberty blockers too somewhere down the road, but my mom thought this was all just a phase, and I continued life normally. She helped me hide my developing breasts, though. I continued to look like a boy until I moved to town in fifth grade. People were a-holes. Again, the kids I knew were alright to me, probably, but I was always questioned, and people did kind of make fun of me. That's why I grew my hair out and started to look like a girl. I had very bad OCD, and that's why I couldn't go to school anymore in seventh grade. I went to a mental health clinic and got prescribed Zoloft. Still living life as a girl, but I did wish I was born a boy these times. In eighth grade, I moved again, and people only knew me as a girl that looked like a girl as well. End of eighth grade, I told my mom I'm trans, and she believed me this time. She was skeptical of hormones and stuff, though, and I went to a therapist who sent me to a special gender clinic I had to go to. I outed myself in school and to all my family. After two appointments at the gender clinic with my story of wanting to be a boy from an early age, and being confident in all this, they prescribed me testosterone. I was determined I wanted to take it, but never did I think about my future while doing this. I thought all my problems right at that time would be solved, as I had a very bad mentality back then. 2 years go by, and I'm happy with my decision, though I daydreamed about being a girlfriend of some boys in my class. But I didn't think anything about it. With 17, this is 5 to 6 months ago, I got top surgery. Still completely confident with my decision. After noticing hair thinning, I went down a dark path. I noticed how I could never be a biological man, and how I'll always have to take tea and do most more surgeries, and that I'm always waiting to be happier after the next surgery or step, and I'm always wanting more and more. I realized that I should done more about my mental health as a girl, and that my problem wasn't needing to transition, but it was rather me needing to accept myself. I was never going to be happy in my body without counseling. But with counseling, I could have been happy in my female body. I want my old life back so badly. I feel like a girl, and wanting to be a boy was just me wanting to be accepted. I didn't want people to make fun of me anymore. Now I'm 17, and I've thrown my whole life away. I'm turning 18 in 3 months, but I can't go out and enjoy my life. I'm not even able to back to school, as I'm mentally completely destroyed. I grieve my old voice and breasts. I want them back. I can't listen to my sisters as I'm jealous of them not having done this mistake. I can only lie in bed almost all day trying to find out how I'm going to make everything alright again. I can't go to places where I've been before testosterone, as I want that time back again. My mom thinks it's all her fault, and she tries to stay strong, but I know she is depressed as well. I just want my old life back, and I don't know how to continue to live my life. On to the next post, titled Experience with Hyperprolactinemia due to HRT. Anyone else go through this? This is by a detransition female. TLDR. I have abnormally high prolactin levels due to taking HRT 2 years ago and have gone through hell and back, including chronic symptoms and MRI scans to figure out the problem. The problem? T broke my pituitary gland, T being testosterone. Trigger warning, medical negligence, medical misogyny, seizures, brain tumor scare. Hi, loves. So I started my detransition just over 2 years ago in June 2020. I wasn't taking tea regularly back then, and so went cold turkey, which I know you're not supposed to do. But anyway, I had no problems for about 6 months and my menstrual cycle resumed, and I experienced clear effects of my estrogen dominance returning too. Muscle mass decrease, curves coming back, slight mood changes. After that 6 month mark, all hell broke loose, neurologically though. I started experiencing memory loss, cognitive decline, trouble remembering words, dizziness, fatigue, etc. I attributed it to my hormones regulating themselves after tea once again and tried to ignore these symptoms. I tried to carry on like this for months and it got worse. Eventually going to a psychiatrist as I was worried I was losing my mind, and they misdiagnosed me with adult ADHD. Over time, my symptoms just got worse, not better, and I developed chronic migraines, nausea, and entirely lost my sex drive at 21. It has been a terrible time, and I can only liken it to experiencing a chronic illness. While my GPs gaslight me and tell me it sounds normal, and that science has no idea what the effects of stopping tea are, so maybe I just have a hormone hangover. But I knew something was wrong because this is so uncharacteristic of other people's experiences over a year after coming off tea, and I was completely fine after the first months after stopping tea. Fast forward another few months and I started gaining weight randomly, even though I'm eating very little. We started panicking and I might have hypothyroidism, so we start going to my GP begging for a blood test. They say they are not equipped and refer me to an endocrinologist at my GIC. Hell, I go to the appointment anyway because I'm desperate for answers and they take my blood. The results come back months later, reading that I have slight anemia due to being vegetarian and my prolactin levels are off the scales high. My GP starts me on iron medication immediately and does nothing about the prolactin levels until I take it upon myself to research it, and I find I have every attributable symptoms of a prolactin creating pituitary tumor. Obviously, I'm freaked out and beg my doctor to help, but they say my levels are high, but within range. They were literally in the highest acceptable percentile, but okay. It was also troubling they were so high because I'm 22, fairly petite, and have never been pregnant. So why would I have so much of a pregnancy hormone? Months passed without my doctors even prescribing medication for my migraines, which have become disabling. My face will be swollen, I will be dizzy and nauseous, crying in pain, with a vice-like feeling in my head, and have impaired vision for about half the week. My vision then starts to get odd in general. I lose peripheral vision in my right eye. The GP refers to me to an ophthalmologist, telling me it's probably an eye problem and I just need glasses. A few weeks later, I see a wonderfully kind ophthalmologist who actually listens to me and finds my right optic nerve is damaged and possibly degenerating, which could be due to a chronic illness or due to pressure on the nerves from inside my head. She recommends an MRI, and I write a letter to my GP, pleading to my GP to refer to me for an MRI. My lovely osteopath also backs me up, recommending my GP to get me seen ASAP. The GP finally listens and takes it seriously after being told to take his finger out by the ophthalmologist, and I'm scheduled for an urgent MRI. Somewhere between those dates, I have a focal seizure for the first time, and then another one. I think it's a fluke since I've recently been taking medical marijuana oil and over-the-counter opioids for the pain. I stop taking it for a while and then it happens again and again. And now I get seizures about once a week no matter what I do. Anyways, I have my MRI with no problems, and then have radio silence for a month on my results, expecting the worst. 2 weeks ago, I get a call from the GP receptionist, not even the GP themselves, to tell me that the GP needed to speak to me, but they had not found anything urgent. I've been booked for an appointment to discuss the results in another week, making it 5 years since my MRI. Sigh. I have no idea what they're going to tell me or try to pass results off as now, but I do know I have hyperprolactinemia with or without a tumor, which they're medically obligated to treat the effects of. We have a family friend with a pituitary macroadenoma who told us about the treatment plan and which medications they use to inhibit prolactin production. In preparation for my doctor's appointment, I think I'm going to write a letter outlining my primary and secondary symptoms, which match the profile of an overproduction of prolactin, irregular and painful periods, infertility, no sex drive, headaches, depression, mood swings, unexplained weight gain, and breast pain, though no lactation as I had top surgery at 18, as well as chronic migraines, nausea, seizures, loss of balance, and loss of vision. I will also note what can happen if it goes untreated: osteoporosis and permanent infertility, as well as the obligation of my GP to treat my symptoms with a prolactin inhibitor such as cabergoline, as quoted by numerous medical journals online. If they have found something else on the MRI, like a lesion or scarring, I guess we will have to deal with that too when it comes to it. My theory is that my doctors were partially right over a year ago. My body was obviously trying to re-regulate itself after taking tea for 2 years, and was overproducing estrogen and prolactin to counteract the male hormones, but then it just didn't stop. As far as I can remember, when a woman is late in her pregnancy, she starts to produce more prolactin, and when gives birth, her hormones also have a sudden drop, and then her brain produces even more of it to be able to breastfeed. That's meant to stop again, right? I feel pretty uneasy right now. This whole ordeal has been incredibly traumatic and gaslighty for me, as you can imagine, but I will keep you all updated with what happens henceforth. My main question with this post is simply, has anyone else experienced this? A brain tumor slash hormonal disorder after HRT? Has anyone got experience with hyperprolactinemia or know any other detrans people who have? I'm really interested to know what your experiences are and how you got treatment. Thanks in advance for reading, and sorry for the long post, unless you like long posts. From the comments. This is from someone questioning their own gender transition, referring to the line, and that science has no idea what the effects of stopping tea are. If only the gender clinics were this honest. What you're going through sounds horrendous. You can always cast a wider net. Get more opinions. Some doctors are pretty open-minded, especially naturopaths, integrative types. I saw an interview with a female detransitioner who claimed carnivore cleared up her hormonal problems. I've heard amenorrhea is a common problem in vegan women, suggesting their hormones are probably jacked up. How this bears on your case, I don't know, but maybe something to look into as well. Thank you for taking the time to read, and exactly. You'll never see GICs be transparent about the fact that there is such limited data on the medical effects of stopping tea, or the medical effects of long-term HRT in general. I think I'm going to a private neurologist slash endocrinologist for DX diagnosis and treatment now. I don't trust my GP, general practitioner, anymore. And I don't think they're equipped or qualified to deal with more complicated stuff like this. I should mention that since the anemia diagnosis and the seizures, I've started eating more of a ketogenic omnivorous diet. My iron and folic levels have gone back up. All I've really noticed though is that I don't feel cold anymore. My hair is growing better, but it hasn't improved the pain or anything. A very helpful commenter also told me about these increasing cases of intracranial hypertension, pseudotumor cerebri, in women who have taken hormone blockers or HRT. After researching it and noticing how similar my symptoms are, I'm definitely going to mention this to the neurologist. I feel way better about the whole process knowing I can go to a neurologist who actually knows what they're talking about. Now, a detransitioned male comments on the original post. Thanks for sharing. It's really a warning to people who are thinking to transition that HRT can be dangerous to what extent. You said you were on HRT before 2 years, but may I know for how long? You were quite young, and Mother Nature may bless you with almost previously healthy situation before starting HRT. And the original poster replies, Hi there, thank you for reading. I appreciate it. I was actually on T for slightly over 2 years, and for most of that time, I was taking Testogel and then switched to testosterone, Cypiate injections in the final 6 months. I really, really hope I can go back to how I was before T, and I have faith it will happen. I just need the help of hormone regulation, lol. And a detrans person comments on the original post. Were you on puberty blockers at any point? The FDA recently identified multiple cases of pseudotumor cerebri in young women who were given Lupron and other drugs in this class. PC is a condition in which increased intracranial pressure causes symptoms which mimic a brain tumor. Just thought I'd throw that out there, though it would likely have been identified on your MRI. And the original poster says, Wow, that's really interesting to know. Thank you. I wasn't on puberty blockers at any point, but I did start testosterone gel as a teenager when I may well have still been finishing puberty. I'm very interested to read about this condition. I had actually never heard of it. On to the next post. Ever since I desisted, so many males I knew in college are coming out as trans women, and I'm just surprised by my proximity. This is by a desisted female. I'm a female who used to ID as gender fluid, and while I never took T, I was binding and adopted all the pronouns. Since then, I've changed my mind on gender as a whole. But in my old circles, 3 males I knew came out as trans women within the span of a month, adult males. I look at a ton of males I knew in college in tight-knit circles, and at least 5 more came out as trans women over the pandemic. Every single one of them, that I know of, has deep trauma regarding their fathers. Every single one of them presents in a hyper-feminine, bimbo way. I don't think correlation implies causation, because I believe gender dysphoria is real. But it's possible that this is too. I don't know. It almost seems to run deeply in these circles. They are all also very politically left, very politically active. I was once there too. Now I don't consider myself affiliated with anything, and I have independent views on all issues. Do you guys think that this will all come to a reckoning eventually, or am I just surrounded by too much wacky stuff? I don't care what they do. It's their lives, not mine. And if they're happily transitioning, although I don't know if how much I believe that, it's on them, not me. Now from the comments. A desisted female comments. I think this is common among leftist males in the West because many of them, upon learning about the various isms of the world, racism, sexism, etc., feel a lot of guilt. They can't stop being white, so they seek to stop being men. I don't think that's always the case, but it has happened. Now, someone who's socially trans, but regrets their medical transition, comments on this. Yup, there's definitely something there. From what I've most often noticed is a severe, sometimes obsessive form of misandry. From yuck, men are just gross, all the way to I hate men and manhood so much that I'd blow every last one off the face of the earth. Then the internalization grows so much that they direct all of that hatred inside and suddenly find that they had a female soul all along. Another noticeable / related trait intense, almost cult-like member levels of unhealthy blind devotion to later waves of feminist theory. And the desisted male replies, from what I've seen, internalized misandry is an under-recognized contributing factor for many male to females. There are numerous things that may influence a male's desire to transition. Autogynephilia, watching too much porn, and fetishizing women are commonly brought up. Mental conditions like autism and OCD are sometimes acknowledged. Social influences like bigotry against gender nonconformity may be mentioned, though I rarely see internalized misandry being addressed. Even though the community I was part of would hardly raise an eyebrow for a trans girl to express wanting to self-castrate with a kitchen knife because of how much self-hatred the idea of having anything inherently male evoked. Certainly, this was not most people in the communities I frequented. The mass majorities of the trans girls I knew were very feminine young homosexual males who believed they are girls because they didn't fit in with society's notions of how men are. But it still is not it but still it was not rare for other trans girls to express how much men are disgusting and men are monsters. And I'm so glad I realized I'm a girl, actually a girl, because I'd rather die than become a man. Now, a desisted male comments, yeah, such people may look for an outlet from all the popular derision over immutable traits. Past decade or so, there's been a big cultural push for medicalization as a solution to the specific type of alienation and the discrimination against a majority person or perceived oppressive status. It's former exploiting vulnerable people in a socio-cultural hostile movement. Now, a desisted male says, 100% true. Of the two most significant factors that led me to identifying as trans, one was the stigma and harassment that came from being gender nonconforming, and the other was related to certain traumatic experiences. Both made being a boy feel uncomfortable and unsafe. Being gender nonconforming, I would get bullied for things that would be seen as normal or even good as a trans girl. And in regard to the trauma, obviously anyone can get abused, but as a guy, it is much harder for people to recognize or sympathize with it. When males are seen collectively as the privileged oppressors, the males who are vulnerable victims get overlooked by virtue of being part of the group supposedly responsible for all the victimization. Being a trans girl allowed me to be part of a community that was at least superficially supportive, in a society where I received no support as a male who was sexually abused by females, since it is seen as something that doesn't happen or is rare enough to be insignificant. Because how can the oppressed rape the oppressor? Yeah, seriously. Male rape does happen, should be taken seriously, but isn't by society, and it's really messed up. Desisted male comments. I had two different male friend groups where a few people transitioned male to female, and the two common factors were autism and leftist politics. I am also autistic, and when I identified as trans had leftist politics. I also think autogynephilia is a major factor, but that's a whole other conversation. A desisted female comment. I can't predict what those individuals will do, but I can say I see the pattern and the correlation. I don't know any single young trans woman who doesn't present in a hyperfeminine way, often with strong leftist political views, and weirdly enough, a strong interest in anime. Now, a desisted male comments, yeah, I noticed in an online community I used to be a part of, there would be almost one person coming out as male to female every month. This is a fairly small community, mind you, which also had very left wing focus. I think genuine dysphorics do exist, but there's no way they're as prevalent as they seem to be, especially in certain circles. A detransition female comments, yep, this will change, and many will regret their transition or detransition at some point. Right now, we're only seeing the beginning of this. I think we will probably only have to wait 10 or 15 years, when all the young trans people grow older and have to face the negative sides of transitioning, to see a big change and to see way more critique of gender ideology, also from a left perspective. And the desisted female says, I do think there will be a time in 20 to 30 years where many transition people will detransition. This comes with age, healing, and social/interpersonal maturity. It'll be interesting to see what the gender narrative is when the pendulum swings back to the middle. And now to this video's last post, titled Cyproterone and its Negative Effects. This is by a detransitioned male. I was prescribed cyproterone acetate as an anti-androgen. And 1 month off, I can't believe how much I've improved mentally and physically after being on it for 18 months. I've had constant brain fog and also gained a lot of weight as a side effect. Now off, I can finally think more rationally, creatively, and properly. My appetite has also returned to what it was. The weight gain has made me develop for the first time body dysmorphia and anorexia, which I never had for any time during my life. It was truly miserable. Not saying that I fully recovered, but I'm feeling a bit more like my previous self. In hindsight, I should have stopped earlier. I'd always feared that it was something to do with myself internally, but it wasn't the case. Self-doubt was the answer. I was told this was safe by my endocrinologist, but here we are. Small steps towards a better future. And that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you would like to support more of this content, please like, subscribe, and also engage in the comments as that helps with the algorithm. Have a good day.